Hello everyone and welcome to our live stream. Tonight, live from Berlin, we're presenting a very special show for you. Today, our product people, Alex and Stefan, will present their unique insights into the decision making of product development on our platform, and together with you, they will go through the tested feedback and where you've been collecting very interesting ideas over time. If you still haven't checked out this page, I posted the link in Discord. Also, if you have any questions during the show for Stefan or Alex, please post them in Discord. We will have some time at the end of the show for your questions. So, there's a lot to cover today. Let's not waste our time and jump right into it. Stefan, over to you.
Thank you, Jenya. Hello, everyone. As Evgenia noted, we are live from Berlin. Almost all colleagues left the office, only the two of us and Jenya are still there. With me today is Alex,
Yay!
one and only product mentor. He started as a tester and then worked as a project manager, working with customers, and then slowly but surely became the product manager of the company.
The famous story. Yes, hello everyone. Nice to be here and looking forward to this next 45 minutes to 1 hour. Depends how much we have to discuss and fight, I guess. But it's an awesome topic, and I love to discuss this with you and share it with you.
Yeah, the first topic we want to cover is some more general about the product process. Prioritization is maybe the biggest topic in the product development or product design process. Can you give you some insight? What is this about, and what challenges does it bring?
Yeah, I will try my best to not lose too much focus while discussing this. And as you said, this is one of the most important tasks basically when you do product management. It's not always as explicit as it might sound like prioritization, right? You sit down and then you just think what comes first. It's not like that basically. Prioritization happens basically on an everyday basis. When you talk to people, you already start to prioritize not only the request, whatever this is, against other requests, but also within that request you prioritize what the root problem is and root cause of a problem is and so on. And then you have several layers basically of prioritization. But in general, prioritization is very team specific, I would say. So we had different approaches in the past 3 years how to prioritize things. You usually have some kind of budgets, you could call them, or buckets maybe, where you put things in. And within those buckets you prioritize then accordingly. And those buckets have a determined budget, which means resources or time.
What are those buckets?
Yeah, buckets can be, for example, like we have the test interface, that could be one bucket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not saying we have those buckets, but this could be one bucket, and you have the customer interface, another bucket. Or you say, all right, we have general product requests, which is one bucket, or you say we have like improvements, for example. So this is not problems or strategic things, but small things.
So it's basically split into the different aspects of the platform, like customer side, tester side, maybe also team leader side.
Yeah, it depends what you have as a product. Like this is our case, but if you have a different app, for example Spotify or so, you have different like team structures and also different buckets. So maybe there you have a user experience bucket, which is very important for them because they have a business to consumer app, so they want to prioritize that against other things. But we try to keep it fair, but also we have to make sure that we reach certain goals, certain milestones, so not every bucket is represented the same way and has the same weight in the process. But once you have established a certain group of buckets, let's start not to talk about buckets all day today or all night, but once you have certain areas where you want to invest your time of the engineering team and your product team and your design team and resources, you know basically, all right, we can do in one sprint or in one time frame, which can be 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, depends how you set up your team. You can kind of estimate how much you can do from a given bucket. So you can maybe do 1 ticket of that bucket, 2 tickets of that bucket, and 3 tickets of that bucket. Usually that represents how important those buckets are right now in the current phase you are in. And also that changes over time. Sometimes We see more urgency in the tester interface, for example, or for the tester community itself. So we need to invest more time in that. We see other issues we didn't have before, so we have to kind of firefight and have to invest a lot of resources there. So this is really a dynamic concept or system. And yeah, once you have like several tickets on your plate, kind of, you really need to start at some point to say, right, this is the first ticket, this is the second ticket, and so on. And we do this on a very dynamic basis, basically. We now changed a bit our process into a 6-week cycle, so this is our time frame. And we have a set amount of developers that we can spread over that time frame, basically, so there's a natural limit to it. And then we decide, all right, this topic, we don't discuss tickets in this level. So when we prioritize, we don't prioritize tickets anymore. We prioritize topics.
Yeah.
So we say, all right, and we will get into some topics. I'm just making one thing up right now. For customers, we want to add the ability to save a test as a draft. Let's say this is not a feature that is existing right now. This could be a topic, or this could be one feature of a bigger topic. To prepare tests in advance, for example, this would be the topic. And then we say, all right, we want to spend 2 weeks of that 6-week cycle of 2 developers, for example, on that topic. And then this goes through the whole list of topics. Some topics might have to go because you need to be able to fit the amount of topics into the time frame you have. And that is basically how we prioritize. In that 6-week time frame, we also say what comes first, what comes last. And that is usually based on how much do we know about a certain topic? Do we have certain unknowns or certain questions that is not 100% clear yet, so we can't start it right away? Or does it make sense to do topic A first and then topic B in the same kind of line? Because A sets the foundation for B, for example, then this is a natural prioritization, and then you don't have to do so much anymore. This makes it way easier to prioritize things and topics because you don't have a backlog full of all the tickets where you then have to go through and then decide on a very small level, okay, this ticket is more important than this one. You start to have arbitrary reasons.
And saying yes to one ticket or to one topic means saying no to the other topics.
Always, not only other topics, but like if you say yes to one topic, this means no to 10 other topics basically you have on your mind or others have
also
on
maybe
their mind.
To people, because
also to people, yeah. Every topic is at least related to one person in the company or in the community that cares about it, and yes, you have to say no to them, even though I personally try to say not often no, but like not yet kind of, which is not always good because you give the expression or the expectation like, all right, at some point this will come. But I think we will get to timing questions later a bit also.
Which you slightly touched was our product development process. If you want to learn more about it, you can read into it. A lot of information can be found in the book Shape Up.
Yes.
That is pretty interesting.
By the Basecamp team, which is a project management tool. Exactly. Yeah, like we are right now in the very early stage doing that process or that approach. But it's really interesting to read also from a dev team how they developed over time and how they came up with this approach. So it's definitely worth to read, at least to scan it, not to read all the stuff maybe.
Yeah, let's try to get from the whole general idea, concept of product development to the to the bit smaller chunks. We will soon talk about your feature requests on the Kenny board. But first we want to talk about how to submit feedback. How should testers submit feedback?
Yeah. What would you say?
So first answer for me would be yes, please do it. So yeah, every feedback is read and welcome, and it gives us more insights, how you feel, how you think about the platform. So it is important to do it, to show that you care about the product. What would you add?
Yeah, I mean, even though we were talking about the Kenny board already, many of you use it already and either provide some feedback yourself or you vote on feedback or you comment feedback. All of that is very important for us because If we don't hear from you, we might not do anything or we do the wrong thing. But even if we hear from you, that doesn't mean necessarily we do all the things that people talk about or how we sometimes say like that a topic is becoming more and more urgent and people are like screaming about it basically. Sometimes literally, sometimes not. But this doesn't mean that it is being prioritized against other topics. It just means, all right, this is a pain for some people, and the product team then has to figure out if that is an actual. Now my book is going dark. If that is something we can even solve. Like sometimes you have issues we can't influence. Sometimes how we then say it's like physics. You can't change physics easily, at least. So, and this is sometimes the case for us as well. If we have a certain performance issues, for example, this is the best example. To, let's say, to reduce the amount of time it is needed to load a page,
Load the tester dashboard.
Load the tester dashboard, which hopefully is now improved. If you haven't noticed yet, check it out. And we spent, by the way, about 1.5 weeks on this in this current cycle right now. And the new approach helped us to prioritize this issue because we now have a dedicated team for that. And it was really important for us that we finally figure out how to solve it.
I noticed it's a bit faster.
Yeah, it's not. We're not there yet. I'm also challenging the engineers who are working on this a bit more.
Yeah.
But it is like the foundation is set, so it's now easier to iterate on it.
We're getting slightly off topic,
Yes.
but I think what is important here from this agenda point is also how to reach the candy board. You go to feedback.test.io, and there you can submit the requests.
Coming back, it is
you need
important.
to sign up. You need to create an account there. My advice would be that yes, you do.
I didn't know.
I think you need at least to put a name on it. And my advice would also be that you choose the screen name which you also have on the platform. So if we have follow-up questions, we can also contact you through support or email. That is very helpful for us. The second part of this question is, how is it reviewed? I know in the beginning you were pretty active on the board. You were pretty curious what our testers had to say.
I am still.
You're still, and you reviewed some more requests recently. It is currently reviewed by me. So, yeah, you might not notice, but I constantly receive emails when there are new submits, when there are new requests, and I do really at least every week take a look what is new there, what is trending. So it's definitely, your feedback is heard.
Yeah, and this is like, just to change some perspective, this is now for you basically, like just imagine how much feedback we receive every day on different channels. Like we use Slack internally, we have emails, we have the intercom support channel, which is also where customers complain about things or reach out about things. But sometimes you also get requests where a customer would say like, hey, can you do this and this with my test cycle? And then we see this is not possible, this is not a feature, but they're asking for it. So there's something missing in the platform, that is functionality that is missing. And no one would have the idea to submit this as feedback right now because they just like, hey, I have a problem right now, can you solve it? And they will not say, hey, I have this feature idea, can you do that? So we have a lot of channels also in person when we talk with people. Almost every talk has at least one small product feedback in it. We have meetings where we explicitly discuss feedback, but also meetings where it was not about the platform at all, and then like, hey, yeah, we have, by the way, this and this problem. So our daily job basically is to listen to feedback, which is why it's so important that you don't get discouraged to provide it, even though we might not comment it or react to it right away. Be assured we read the feedback. This is not only true for you, but also true for anyone working at Test.io. I can't, I don't feel confident, I don't know about you, but when I read feedback, I usually read it right away. But if I comment, I want to make sure that I comment properly. Like I want to show some like kind of respect to the feedback itself. And if I don't feel confident yet to comment, I don't. And this oftentimes then is understood like, yeah, you didn't read my feedback or you didn't value it or whatever, which is not the case. Actually, it's the opposite for me. How is it for you? Like if you read feedback but you don't comment right away, what do you think about it? Do you think anything, or do you just like plan it for later, or?
depends a lot on the feedback. Sometimes I feel okay to say in a friendly way, maybe no straight away. Sometimes I need to put more thoughts into it, and also certainly there are a lot of follow-up questions. So
Right.
can you give us a better idea why, or how often did it happen? Can you prove by data that this is really important? How many of our customers or testers use this? I think all of these aspects need to be considered before making the prioritization decision.
Which is an awesome transition to the next topic, right? Because all those
Really,
questions
it is.
could be
Yeah.
already answered in the initial request or feedback.
Yeah. So next question is what we want to answer. What is a good feature request? How does it look? I spoil it a bit here.
A bit.
So two aspects which are really important is the what and the why. Maybe even more the why. So why is something important? Why do you care about a ticket so much? How many people are affected? So we have a lot of tasks which almost everyone on the platform does. For example, reporting bugs or submitting reproductions. That affects a lot of people because we have a lot of testers in our community. Always provide a good reason how many people are affected and in what way it could help. Maybe how many stakeholders are affected. Does it only improve the situation? Does it only improve the situation for customers, or also for testers, or also for internal stakeholders? So
Provide everything we need to make a decision here. No, I mean...
how would you answer this question?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question for sure, because, again, perspective. On the one hand, we don't want you to spend like hours and days and weeks to research and do like assessments or whatever before you submit feedback. Like for me, it's always more important that you speak up about certain issues you see or like problems you see, and if you feel, hey, they didn't read it yet or they didn't react to it yet, make sure to be heard. Like I can only encourage this. Like if you submit something on Kenny, for example, and you don't get a comment or some reaction after a week or so, reach out on Intercom again. Like if it's something you really care about, or you have the feeling, I'm sorry to put the support pressure on you, but this is at least how I would say it to CSMs or even to customers. I would recommend this, or to anyone really. If you feel strongly about something, then make sure that it's being heard, because this is also what we have to do internally. Like if I have the feeling, and we have a kind of surprise today later, if I have the feeling this is really something we should do, I don't let go. Like this is just something we try to carry on for you with your feature requests, but since there are so many, right now I think we have over 100 requests or different feedbacks. This is just too much. So we have to pick some of them and then really carry them on. But a good feature request for me is always at least considering the why. The why is not meant to be like so many people are affected and so on. So this is all nice to have, I would say. So definitely make sure, as for any bug report, for example, you would also put some time into writing it. So make sure it's understandable. Make sure it's very clear what you are talking about, because sometimes we just get text and then we have to try to anticipate what you have in mind while writing this. So always try to maybe provide some screenshots. Don't take too much time to create them, but just like screenshot, mark it here, like a bug report basically. Yeah. But then try to kind of change the perspective and try to look from the outside. Why is this important? And try to not only look at see it from your perspective, but also from other testers, because sometimes maybe something's important for you, but if you think about it, is it really important for everyone else in the room? Maybe not.
Two other things I'd like to mention here. One tip I found to be very useful for myself is when I'm getting emotional about a thing and I really feel, well, that's a terrible situation. It should not be like that. Then I almost want to go over to the room where you are working and shout at you and tell you this is bullshit and this does not work and so on. So every time when I experience that I feel emotional about a topic, then I write it down so I don't forget, and then I leave it for a week or at least a day. So and then you can really think about it with a clear mind. If is it really still important? Is it important after 1 week still? Is it still important after 2 weeks? And that helps. And that helps considering. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we call it feature request here, but it's not limited to feature requests. It can also be a problem. So feel free to also submit on the Kenny board problems that you face when working on Test.io on the platform. Please, yeah, the solution you have in mind might not be the best answer to the problem. So does not necessarily need to be a feature request. It can also be an issue that you face in your work at Test.io. And we have some of them already, but I encourage you to also start with the problem. And
I just want to emphasize this because actually the problem, to understand the problem and to hear from you what the problem is way more helpful and easier for us to do and work with than if you're giving us a solution. Because if you present a solution, there's always something you couldn't anticipate because you don't know all of the systems and processes. So if you say, I have the problem that, I don't know, if I want to do this and this, I can't because this and this is the reason for it. This is the problem and this is something I can understand and then I can put into some context and then I can fix maybe easier than if you say, hey, it would be awesome if you do this without telling me why. And then we have the why again. The why is usually what is the problem. That's because my solution is solving this problem. So start with the problem first, with why. If you want, provide a solution, but you don't have to. Try not to, maybe even.
Good.
So
before we go to your to the 5 most popular requests, we will just tell you a bit how the statuses work. So there are 2 statuses at least.
So far,
I think yeah. So far we use 2 of them. So if something on the Kenny board is marked as under review, then we took a look at it and we actually consider it. That's without any promises yet, right?
I would say, under review is just a label at the end, but it just means that what I said before, I took some time to review, to look into it, to understand it. Usually when I do put the under review status, I also add a comment, maybe questions. At least I did in the case when I was doing this. But honestly, I also didn't take much time in the last year to look into the Kenny board. This is why Stefan was kind of coming in and jumping in and looked into more of the feedbacks. And even though not every ticket has an under review, doesn't mean we don't have discussed this internally already. But this is also, again, perspective. Difficult for us to remember all the time, where did I get this feedback? Was it on Intercom? Was it on Slack? So there, again, the challenge is all those different channels, and then the expectation to update each and every channel. This is a full-time job already, and then we couldn't work on the features anymore. So under review means for me, I have read it, I think I understood, I usually add a comment, which usually includes a question at least, and then sometimes I also lose track because then there's something else, shiny thing or a big problem or whatever, I then focus on, because it also takes some time to answer the question. So again, you make it easier for us if ideally we don't have to ask any question. If the problem is super clear and very well formulated, we don't have to ask a question, so the process overall will be faster. We don't have to ask a question, we can just basically put this into a ticket and work on it, ideally. And plan for me means really, I think this we didn't really use properly in the past. Plan would mean, for me at least, this is something that in the cycle I was talking about, the 6-week cycle, is in that cycle. Only then I would, right now at least, put this ticket or this feedback into planned. But I also did this wrong in the past.
Yeah, bottom line, we try to be more reliable with the statuses and give you more feedback about your suggestions there.
We mean it good.
Okay, now to the exciting part.
Yes!
Drum roll.
Totally.
Yeah, let's talk about the suggestions you submitted. Let's start with the 5th
You could have
most
brought
upvoted.
the sound generator thing from Dennis to do the drum roll. Damn it. Number 5 is, I just read it out loud, introduce uniform standards for accept bugs between team leader, TL. So should I comment?
Please
Already?
go ahead. Yeah.
When I was reading this the first time, I was trying not to read through all of them before too much, so I'm having a more like spontaneous thought process. I didn't really know what this means. Again, we were talking about good feature requests and so on. I think I know what it means. Stefan already confirmed in the preparation, but we will also go into more details. So for me, this means that I, as a tester, I submit one bug here and a very similar or the same bug even in this other test. And two different team leaders make a different decision.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is not so cool. Like, this sounds unfair, but do you have some comments on this? Or should I only comment then? It's
No.
not just me.
So just generally about this ticket, I think that it's a really good example that that you don't necessarily need to start with a solution. You can also state a problem, and this is a problem. Let's call it maybe challenge we have on our platform because we have so many different team leaders and humans are differently. We try to standardize more. But it's really hard also with the different bug severities that we have. That each TL judges the severities similar. That is really a challenge for us. I marked it with the status plan because we since 2 quarters we started end of last quarter and we have it as a focus topic this quarter. We work closely with the team leaders to have a better to have a better standardization, so that you can rely more on the decisions that the team leaders do. There's a lot of going on. Marcus is working with the team leaders a lot on this, so that you can rely on what is in the tester academy. You can better rely on how the team leaders decide. There will never be a total consistency. We will never be able to reach that. So there might be still some rejections you will experience, or some surprise moments.
The
But
thing is,
we try to become better at this, and it will be a continuous topic for us.
and it was always like, I am with Tester now in my 6th year.
Was it a topic back then already?
Always, like, it was always like you have different customers, they ask you different things, and then you have different team leaders, and they are not always like, don't always know what the others do. Like, we don't have a system where every team leader can see everything, because that would be overwhelming for them. So we always had some guidelines in place, sometimes more restrictive, sometimes less restrictive. I think now we are like having the best guidelines we can have. We have the best community team we ever had, and we also have a lot of focus on those topics. But there was always a uniform standard, basically. But it was not working because, I mean, back then maybe it was working, but now we have way more tests, maybe way more customers, more testers, more team leaders across different time zones. So again, you try to suggest like a solution, like introduce uniform standards. I could say we have this done, like we don't even have to look into this ticket. But what you actually probably want to say is that the decision making of team leaders is different, and this is a problem for me because I don't know how to submit this bug now in the next test cycle. So 1 is rejected, 2 is accepted. Should I submit it again? If it's rejected, what do I do in the next test cycle, and so on. So this is the problem we have to address and figure out how to deal with. But I think we do as much as we can do right now. We have the bug dispute as well for this, basically, which is kind of one way for you to show us also like, hey, this is a different decision making here, and then it should look way more consistent. Should we go to number 4?
Yeah.
All right. Get rejection reasons for rejected reproductions, bug reproductions.
It's funny, that's one of my suggestions on the board.
Ooh. Wait, is it yours?
It's mine.
That is so unfair. I thought it's only testers.
I'm also a part of this community. I also want to submit.
I also got like 43 upvotes, so that is something we actually discussed internally quite a lot over the last couple of years.
Sorry, I confused it with the next one. No, this is from Marcus.
Also unfair. He's not a tester.
And the next one we will talk about is from me.
Spoiler.
Okay.
So yeah, reject reasons for rejected reproductions. I have like a very short comment on that.
No.
No, obviously not. I totally understand why, and
Mhm.
from our point of view as a product team, we even would like that because we would then understand why bug reductions get rejected. Because right now we don't. We would have to ask team leaders, "Hey, give us some feedback on this. Why do we usually reject bug reductions?" They would then say like because of this and this and this, probably attachments, maybe just doesn't look right, and so on. Or even technically not possible with that device or whatever. But now changing the perspective from a team leader point of view, providing that rejection reason usually also means you need to provide a comment. At least that would be like the very next thought you could have. Like if I just have a drop down, like select reason, you always want to put in some work to give you a reason why, not only like yeah because of bad quality. Then you would ask why is it like what can I do next time? But then we have to consider that the payout for testers and team leaders for bug reductions is not that high. So the amount of effort to provide that reason is higher than it is right now. So this changes the picture.
This would also be my main comment here, that we consider reproductions an easy task, and we want to keep it easy for you and for team leaders. So there should not be a lot of work involved. I actually looked up the data, and the vast majority of reproductions is accepted by the team leaders. So yeah, it's just a very small part of reproductions which even get rejected. But I do understand that you might be confused. You might have to ask in the chat, and the team leader might not reply there. So the workflow is far from ideal there. And if you are new to the platform and you want to learn and face a lot more rejections, then you really want to know the reason why. To be honest, I'm on the fence about this topic. I see arguments on both sides. I know that Evgenia likes this a lot, and I see where it can come handy for new testers, especially to make this task on our platform more clear.
And again, like the request or the feedback is a solution, and the underlying problem
Right.
it looks like is I don't know why my bug reproduction is rejected.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So there might be other ways to solve that.
Right.
In some ways, maybe. So not every rejection maybe is commented, but every 10th or so. Then it would be more
Another possible solution
feasible.
can be that the education improves about it. Maybe we need to make a YouTube video about reproductions, or improve our academy articles so people have an easier time educating themselves, and we might be able to even further increase the acceptance rate for reproductions.
Yeah, I just start to think about more creative even solutions, but they're then getting too complex, and then again, why would we do that much effort? But yeah, it's a fair request. I also think it's always important that the system is fair to you and you understand why things happen in a certain way.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I could say from also a tester, not maybe on Testeo as a tester right now, but testing Testeo basically all day, is always make sure your video is clear, that everything you do in the bug reduction is clear and fits in the rule, and you should not get rejections then. If you still receive them and you really feel like, hey, this is happening a lot to me, and it's not like 1 out of 100 or so, definitely make sure you check in with the community team to like maybe assess some of the rejection reasons, and then also understand from case by case, and then we'll also see like what's.
I would first ask the tester. I would first
I always
ask
put
you
more stuff on your support.
No, I would first ask you to check out the Academy article, to check in with other testers, to ask the team leader in the chat what can be improved about the reproductions. Okay, go. Let's
Number 3,
go to the
we are
next
going
topic,
to the top. Make reproductions editable. That is your request, as we have just learned.
And it's not completely mine. It came through working in the support and getting feedback from testers. And yeah, that came up a lot actually. When you do any mistake on the reproductions, selecting the wrong attachment, maybe a picture from your dog or so, then you have no chance to edit. It can happen. Maybe that's on your hard
Yeah,
drive.
I saw some bug attachments at some point. We did some kind of check if we have any issues with like inappropriate attachments and so on. And then we saw some, and I was like,
But
why would someone upload this?
a misclick can
Yeah,
totally
sure, I
happen,
know.
and yeah.
I mean, again, like the third time now in a row, and now you see like where I'm coming from. You propose a solution. The problem is that you made a mistake, right? This happens. Like everyone makes a mistake every now and then. Again, the same reason kind of I would provide, or the same comment as for rejection reasons is, if you, like, it depends, right? If you submit the reproduction and you're like, oh shit, I checked it again and I made a mistake, completely fair. To that point, I would be with you. After a team will review the bug reproduction, because this is also stated in the comment, I would say it's done, because again, we don't pay a lot for the bug reproductions to team leaders as well. And that doesn't mean like we don't value it, but it's just like we don't consider it a major task, so we have to pay less than for a bug report. And since we pay less to team users as well, we cannot expect from them for the same payout to review this, like request a quality improvement, like we do for bug reports, for example, and then you have the chance to resubmit, because all of that we are talking about a few cents. So we really need to find a way to make it easy for you to correct your mistake, ideally in the beginning, before it gets review, because review doesn't happen right away usually. So this is something where I would say that part, yeah, we can consider. That is fair, and that is something that will not have a strong impact on anything else. But of course, also for us, it would be meaning that we need a screen for that. We need to give you the ability to edit your bug reproduction and so on. So there's more to it than just make it happen, right? So it's a lot of work actually to put in there. And then we would have to change ourselves and ask, like, how often do testers need to do that? Is it like 1 out of 10?
How often is it allowed that testers can edit their reproductions?
No, how often is it like, how often does a mistake happen? Like how high is the error rate, which is difficult to measure, obviously.
Yeah.
And this also comes together, right? Because maybe you make a mistake, upload a picture of your dog, and then it gets rejected and you don't know why, and then you actually look and it's because of your dog, kind of. So maybe with this one, we could put some ease on the other one, because you can correct your mistake and then you get less rejections.
Yeah. For me, it is the same arguments as for the ticket before. We keep in mind that the vast majority of reproductions are accepted, so you seem to do a lot of reproductions right in the first place, and we consider this an easy task, and we don't want to build a complex product around it. So I must say, even though I have submitted this, for me this is rather a no than a yes, even though I'm not allowed to say no, right?
You are, I mean,
okay.
yeah, sure. But it's definitely not yet, because there's so much more feedback and so on going on.
It would not be the highest prioritization topic for me. Maybe that's phrased in a better way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 2.
I like this one.
It was one of my favorites too. Yes.
It was?
It was.
It is no longer is?
You're spoiling. I was spoiling. Provide an overview of all of your bugs, disputes, and tests. So again, what I understand is that we have a page list or whatever where you see all your bugs, all your disputes, all your tests, basically everything you did, I guess, with Testero for whatever reason, right, to review and so on. Again, I understand completely where this is coming from. I would again ask why. Like, I mean, I get why, but it would be awesome to understand why this is important for you. What are you trying to achieve with that? Like, is it something for your invoice bidding checking, for example? I saw some requests about that as well. Is it something just to be in control and have the transparency, which is legit and a valid reason? But it would help me, because maybe you also have an underlying issue that is not clear for me right away, right? So maybe you are like, hey, for example, what I also have heard about is I get the email that the test is done and billed and everything. I only get 3 out of 5 bucks paid maybe, or something like this. And then I don't have an easy way to get back to the test or to all the tests and check what is going on. This one I actually marked as under review.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
while I totally get it, I would still need more arguments why this is important, because we could do this all day to ask for like new lists and views and screens and everything.
There were a lot of comments underneath stating that this is really a cool idea and this is needed and so on. So, but all of these are not specifically telling us why this is important.
Yep.
I can only imagine why it's important. I think it's just about transparency. So you want to just know, maybe have a record. What have you done? What was my work? And maybe even have an overview. 50% of your bugs have been rejected also, and then you can really analyze the rejection reasons. You can analyze what disputes have been accepted and so on, in which tests I did participate. What we have is the test archive, but this is not. This is a different purpose. It's basically a billing archive.
Yeah.
It's not a test archive.
Are the tests linked in the archive?
They are.
Okay, at least that. Otherwise, it would be really bad. But yeah, I mean, as I said, as a tester, like that perspective, I completely get it. I want to have a list where I can go to when something happens somewhere, and I want then to understand what happened. I also like the idea to be able to assess myself. Right now, we have the profile where we aggregate all the data together, but maybe you want to see your test cycle performance. So that is something interesting. In order for us to pitch this internally and get budget for it, we would need to find arguments why this is something worth doing, because we can just like come up with, we will increase tester motivation and so on. We will get the same questions we asked you. Give us proof, like how do you make sure that this is actually happening? So we will probably run an experiment and so on. But since it's top 2, it's something very interesting to look at.
Yeah.
I also already thought about, since it's top 2, I think it's fine if we just like add some comments or some thoughts. How I would probably solve this right now, the easiest way I can think of, using the test archive, and not necessarily, I mean, we keep the link to the test, but each line is one test, right? I think. I have to double check. I haven't visited the test archive often enough recently. But let's say each line is one test, represent one test. If you can just like expand the test and see all the objects you submitted into that test and their status, something like this. Why am I coming up with this? Because we have something similar as a module, as a UI element in the interface already, which is on the features list when you are in the test cycle. So we can reuse this, so it's easier to build. And we also have lists where we show bugs, for example, and then we could show everything that can be linked. And then you have an easy way to show like, hey, this is what was going on with your bugs in this test.
You are talking about possible solutions now,
yes.
Which I think is okay in this very case. But to build a better solution, it would
yes.
be really helpful for us to better understand the reasons behind. So why would this be helpful for you? What would you like this overview to contain? What should be, how would you work with it, and how would it even increase your quality, or how could you assess your own work even better? So yeah, if you have some spare time today or tomorrow, then we invite you to go to the Canny board to this suggestion. It's, if you sort by top, it's on rank 2. And yeah, please leave some comments why this is important for you, how would you work with it, and how would this affect you in a positive way.
Yeah, or what problem are you having right now that you can't solve because this is not happening or
Right.
this is not present?
Yeah. Good.
Number 1.
Drum roll.
Yes.
Are you excited?
A bit. 73 upvotes, 13 comments so far. Under review, testers should, oh my god, receive automatic bonus if the bug is rejected because the customer can't reproduce it. If there's at least one other tester that hasn't been able to reproduce it. Long title.
That would be too long for a bug title.
Yeah, maybe. But it probably would also be too long to export it to Jira or whatever. But, alright, understood. The title is way better. But like why? Why would we do that? Obviously, it's obvious why, kind of. But it's kind of asking for something without telling us why it is so important for you. And it's just a matter of being fair to you. That if a colleague of yours or another tester can say, yes, I have the same issue, That is also one of the reasons why we have bug reductions in the first place, is that we see if testers can confirm each other in their work. Um, so in general, I would say, yeah, let's do that. Obviously, perspective change as a business, tester as a business, doing that automatically especially will mean that we don't have control on how many bonuses were paid. And obviously this is something that makes us nervous if we just pay a bonus because something happens. We do this a lot already, but only when we are really, really certain that this works. And I think I even left a comment on this one, which also were commented by you. What happens if no other reproduction is there to confirm your bug report or your also bug reproduction, therefore, then the system wouldn't work because it would just look for other bug reproductions. And the next question, probably an engineer would ask, like, what is the limit? Is it one bug reproduction? Is it two, three? Why one, two, three? Like, where do we make the change or the cut? Basically, we have to make a decision on that one. What is on your mind on this one?
Yeah, so I think the underlying problem here is that customers don't take enough time or cannot reproduce the bug, so they reject it with that reason. That can have multiple aspects. So maybe the customer is not using the right device. Maybe there is a lack of information in the bug report as well, or it could be phrased more precise to allow the customer to better reproduce it. So my tip here is to really provide all the information that you can get. If it's something, for example, Internet Explorer specific, then provide this in the bug title even, or in the expected, or yeah, in the actual result. You can leave a note there.
Especially if it's like just clarifying on that, since we also review a lot of bugs internally when we get them from employees or like from you also will sometimes forward it. If I see in the title on IE, like Internet Explorer,
Yeah.
to be honest, my initial reaction is like, all right, like waived, basically like removed or disapproved or whatever, dismissed kind of, because
No love for Internet Explorer.
not so much. I'm sorry. Maybe now with the new Chromium base, it makes more sense to support it. But again, perspective, right? This is very, very important. And I just learned this not that long ago to work with this technique kind of, because it helps a lot. A customer gets, like, this is your bug. You submit one bug to, let's say you submit one bug to a test where you used Internet Explorer for whatever reason. Why would you do that? No, you used Internet Explorer because it was in scope of the test. Fair. You find an issue that is something only happening on your Internet Explorer. You submit this issue, it's a valid issue, it's maybe even critical, you could say. Still gets rejected because the customer can't reproduce. Why would the customer do that? Because maybe they don't use Internet Explorer. We use MacBooks here in the company mostly, so I can't technically reproduce it. Like, physics, right? I can't.
Yeah.
So if it's not happening on Chrome, I actually, like on a valid base, reject it as I can't reproduce it on Chrome, which is my go-to browser for my software.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry, but
why do you put Internet Explorer
exactly
in the first place?
this is the let's say the bad thing customers tend to do sometimes. It's not bad, but it's like it's a mistake, I would say, because they pay for the service, they pay for tester, they pay for your bugs at the end. And of course, they want to get most out of their investment, which is their money they spend every month and every year.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to make use that they can put many devices in scope, just to like be on the safe side, which doesn't always make sense, unfortunately. And we try very, very hard with our CSM team, with every customer, to educate them, to train with them, and to understand them as well. Why would you do that if you reject a lot of bugs with IE, for example? And we do such reviews. We have like quarterly and monthly meetings with our customers where we say like, hey, you reject a lot of bugs because of that reason. Can we work that out? And we try to improve it, but obviously at the end it's a customer's choice.
Yeah, also the CSMs talking with the customers, helping them to analyze the issues they had, reproducing the issues, and maybe educating them to put the right things in scope or how to reproduce and so on.
Yeah.
So I also see from time to time that team leaders comment below the bug, telling the customer, I was able to reproduce on that and that device, which is really cool, I think. That gives the customer a better picture that how they can reproduce it. also for this, I looked into the data, and
Ooh.
and this rejection reason is on the fourth place. So
Of how
it's
many? Sorry.
uh, 5 or 6.
So very low.
Yeah,
Kind of.
it's quite low. But every time it happens, I understand it's very painful. So you found a valid bug which was reproduced by you, by other testers, by the team leader even, and the customer might not be fully focused on the review and rejects that, or even the bug was fixed in the meantime. That can also happen, to be honest.
Yes. Well, then
Because
you
they're
would not reject it. Hopefully, I mean, to that, customers
well,
are free in the choice of reject reasons. So maybe
yeah,
they also sometimes select the wrong one or
yeah.
just that one because for whatever reason. So they don't know which bug reject reason is being paid and so on.
So definitely, I think this is a very emotional topic, and I understand when people get when you get frustrated from this. Um, yeah, but we try to minimize it. We try to work on different fronts to minimize this issue, to minimize this frustration for you. And on your end, like I said, yeah, please provide all the details that you have. Try to describe the bug as best as you can. That helps the customer then to reproduce it. I see the yeah I see the, there's also a big need on the customer side here to work with customers to analyze if they reject a lot of bugs for that very reason, to give them more tools and more insights how they can improve the bug review.
Yeah, be assured that we try a lot and our best to make sure that the customers understand what they do with their actions and that it has a direct impact on our community. And we,
Yeah.
of course, want to protect you from bad choices. But again, the customer is also just a human being. They have maybe 50 bugs in the test, so they have only little time for your bug. So when they see Internet Explorer, they also are busy people, and then they're like, I can't reproduce right now. I have to dismiss it. And sometimes they do it on purpose to get it back next time. So sometimes it's just like, it's not even meant to be like just a rejection, but they actually want to see if that is happening again, but they can't follow up on this easily, so they just reject it. If it happens again, over and over again, at some point as a customer, I would do that. Like, honestly, I'm sorry, but if I get it right, I can't reproduce right now. That's maybe that is the difference. I can't reproduce it right now because of time, device, whatever. If I then get it again, I at some point would say, okay, now I have to sit down and invest more time.
Yeah.
But it takes several times for me to be convinced that this is something serious. And yes, this is like another problem I know about, but this is how customers sometimes have to work because they also have limited time, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, since it's top one, it's likely that we will look into this after this session today, but we have more awesome things.
Yeah, we picked our favorite suggestions from this board.
Yes. You start.
You were not able to decide between two.
I was, at the end, I was able.
Okay, because Evgenia forced you to?
Yes,
okay.
Kind of. I had 20 tabs with 20 different feedbacks open. I was like, I want all of them. And then I had like 10, and an hour later or so, I was redoing them again. And
when everything is important, nothing is important.
So I spent at least 1.5 hours today just to make sure I get the right thing for today.
Okay.
And I hope I got it. I hope we will like it and love it.
You invited me to start with mine.
Yes.
I would like to...
Don't you remember it?
I do remember it,
Good.
of course.
Is it in the top 5?
It's top 6.
At least.
Yeah. So this suggestion is from our German tester, Merde. He says he would like to have the possibility to check liked bug reports. He writes in a user story way, as a tester, I want to improve the quality of my work, and therefore I would like to see the liked bug reports from other testers and myself to have benchmark examples from which I can learn. So currently some customers have the option to like bug reports, and I actually marked this under review because there is something planned about this. This was not yet prioritized, but I really like this idea because what I like about it is it's an easy. It's not too complex.
Careful.
It's not too complex. It brings more positivism on our platform. So right now we have a lot of rejections and dispute bans and so on and warnings, and this brings some more positive aspects on the platform. So I really like this feature that some customers have it. I like how it looks on the tester profiles, and why not give that transparency to you, that you are able to learn from those like bugs and better understand what the customer not only accepted, but they even made the effort to like. And I think it's a pretty good solution, which I personally
Before I
like a lot.
before I also say that I like it a lot, is there any notion to the tester that submitted the bug, which is then liked, that they only
The-
see that they are like
You
under
see
liked,
it on your tester profile.
Yeah,
You
I
see
get
the
it.
counter going up, but there's no connection to
Yeah, I see.
to the bug report.
What I like a lot about this one is that it really is about community. So the tester in this case didn't just complain about something or didn't just say like I want more money for that or automate it, whatever. Not saying this is bad or not fair, but this is something that we also like to pick up because we have the feeling that if we can find a way to make this happen, this is really a positive impact, as Stefan said, for you. And as I said, I like a lot that the testers also saying, I want to see what other testers do good, like what other customers like from other testers, so I can see how I can improve myself. So yeah, I would also say it's a great input, and also something where when we developed this feature for customers, we were mostly focusing on the customer themselves and had the benefit in mind that those like testers will be more often invited to those customer tests. So there is not nothing to it, but you want more, which is great to see. And this is exactly why sometimes we also leave feature requests or feedback, like sitting a while to get a better taste, like a pizza overnight, basically. Because sometimes you just need some time. Pizza overnight tastes better, don't you know?
If you don't eat it for a night and then the
Yeah,
next day.
if you eat it in the next morning, it's always better.
I like my
Almost
pizza
always.
warm.
You can warm it up. Anyway.
Okay.
So sometimes you just build something like a feature or product, like user stories, for example. We have a lot of feedback for user stories, but it's too early right now for us to do anything about it because we need to give it more time. Because oftentimes when you get something new, you have so many ideas and feature requests and feedbacks.
Yeah.
We as a team, as a product team, need to wait until we feel, all right, this is now settled, and then we see the most important things like kind of going through the filter. So yeah, I like it a lot. I like mine more, obviously.
Okay,
But
I'm curious now.
yeah, let's see. Let me pull it up. I hope I can find it. I have to say, yes. This one, I didn't see who requested it, but it's Buggy. One of my
Colleagues back then.
not colleagues, but like the tester I work with a lot back then when I was a project manager or CSM, and yeah, she's just like adorable. I still see messages where she's like, yeah, greet Alex from me, so nice. So I didn't pick this one because of her, but just because I think this is so disturbing. So my pick is adding steps in a bug report. This is a bit misleading in the title, but what it is about is that ultimately, and again, we could have a better feature request here, but ultimately it is about that right now, if you submit a bug as a tester, and I do this myself, so don't, like, I do go through this pain as well. If you want to add a step, you have to click, right? And not only that, you can rearrange the steps. So if you put something in there and then you check like, wait, this is actually not the step, but the next one, you have to copy paste stuff and you have to click one more to have a placeholder, and then you do this kind of stuff, and then it takes like 5 minutes to just get the steps right, and it could be so much easier. And so the problem is make the steps more user-friendly kind of, and the reason for that, or the why behind that, is it just takes a lot of time for a very simple task. And I even have some solutions in mind, not only drag and drop, which is only one thing, but also, for example, what bugs me the most, actually, what a joke, is that if I write something into the first step, I usually would use tab to go to the next step. I can't. I have to click to add steps, so I add like a bunch of them, and then I can do fill them out, which is just like so unnecessary.
So you would start copy pasting and bring it all down to add a step in the middle, right?
Also that, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the worst is you write 10 steps and then you figure out I missed something in the second step. You have to copy and paste every step now one line below to add the second step.
Yep.
Yes. Mine is more important, right? Say yes. It is also a quicker win.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
It is.
I'm not sure.
It is way more valuable.
But I like it a lot. I like it a lot.
Did we agree how we settled this discussion right now?
I think we are supposed to say yes, no for half an hour non-stop.
So yes to mine.
Maybe. No, I think it really makes sense. It's a good suggestion, and yeah, I think you picked a good feature request.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm sorry, but I have to
No!
stop it here. Yeah, because we have to wrap it out. We run a bit of time and there are no questions in Discord, so that's why I would like to say thank you to Stefan and Alex for being here today and having such an interesting and heated discussion. We've learned a lot and we really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Evgenia, for setting all up, and thanks everyone for watching.
Thanks everyone who tuned in, and I hope to see you all in our next live stream that will take place in March. Stay tuned.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.